Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you may be located. Um, Good to see everybody. I know I had scheduled this to start at 7 p.m. Eastern time, but I slightly moved things up to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, and now I just had to get some things set up. So I had 5 minutes to get started. But appreciate y'all for jumping in. We have a few different things to kind of cover today. It was a very busy weekend of track and field across the board. After I go through a couple different topics, if I don't touch upon them, definitely want y'all to circle back or let me know of anything. Obviously on the final leg extra channel, which I'm using as essentially my channel where I'm just like doing some quick takes in a sense, or just things where I don't do any editing. I was at USA Indoor, so I did some quick initial recaps on that. Talked about the NCAA championships, or I'm sorry, the conference championships on the NCAA side. So some of the sprints that we did see across the board there. And also spoke slightly about the Gibson McCook relays that we saw in Jamaica, with Kashane Thompson, Brian Lavelle, Akeem Blake, as well as Joniel Smith, as well as Tina Clayton. So definitely check out those videos. Today we'll go through and very, very quickly kind of little more thought process around USA Indoor Championships. So I want to just give a few more pieces of context and some thoughts around, what occurred at USA Indoors and some of the results there. I want to briefly touch upon Jamaica's selection for the 60 meters going to the World Indoor Championships, because they do have, they have a couple different names, specifically on the women's side is what I'm looking at, but they do have a couple different names that they'll have to choose from on who will actually go to the World Indoor Championships. So that'll be a quick discussion. I'll quickly talk about Gout Gout being announced to run at the Prefontaine Classic versus Letsile Tebogo, Kenny B in that 200. So it'll be pretty interesting. So we'll see how that plays out. And then I'll end off with Manolo Karalis in that pole vault and kind of look at the landscape of the men's pole vault and any other field events that we do. Kind of, we saw some great performances across the board this past weekend, but I'll try to highlight a few things there. But also, as we kind of go through, depending on the timing, if there's other things, if there's like other results that, I might have gone over, or if there's different things that kind of did pop up, definitely let me know, as I'd love to, kind of just like highlight them, maybe kind of talk through freestyle. Last week, speaking about Keely Hodgkinson, I had no plan of speaking about her, but, we did a quick little conversation on her. So we can, anything y'all have on the docket, but all right, but yes, good to see y'all. Appreciate y'all for jumping in. We'll get started in just a minute as I make sure I have all my things up. Again, this is a very, very busy weekend of track and field, and I mean, we're still at the top of March. We got the World Indoor Championships coming up March 20th, and just about less than 3 weeks time. We have one more meet. We have the ISTAF Berlin meet going down this weekend. We have a couple athletes who are probably chasing marks, because Sunday, the 8th, is the last day that any athlete has to get a qualifying mark for the World Indoor Championships. A few athletes don't have that qualifying mark. They didn't get it at their national championship, so they might have to actually get it. There's the world rankings that do come into play, so we'll see how that actually does play out. But a couple things on the docket for sure. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, so we can make sure we're on time. So first off, I did want to briefly talk about the USA Indoor Championship. So I did some initial recaps and some initial reactions as I was on the ground here in New York City at at Staten Island and Ocean Breeze. But some great performances across the board and some interesting storylines that did kind of unfold. Also, on my part, as someone who's in the United States, who's based here, in New York, and has been to a couple of these, USA Indoor Championships, and of course outdoor championships, et cetera, et cetera. A little disappointment as well because of the quality of some of the fields. And when we're talking about the sprints, the hurdles, and the jumps, outside of certain field events, like the men's long jump had some pretty high quality. The women's long jump was some really good quality. The men's 60 I thought was really good quality. Apologize about the background noise. But after that, it dropped off drastically. the women's 60 meters was not high quality at all, unfortunately, outside of Jason Sears. And this is not to disparage any athlete, but just talking about the depth that, we might expect from, athletes in the United States. The women's 400, some amazing names, right? Rosie Effion, Shamir Little, Paris Peoples, Bailey Lear, but the quality of athletes that we might expect in the women's 400, like an Isabella Whitaker, like an Aaliyah Butler, maybe a Gabby Thomas, or whoever else you might have in that conversation, they unfortunately weren't lined up, at USA Indoors. Alexis Holmes, the world indoor silver medalist, she wasn't there. Similar on the men's 400 side, outside of Caleb McRae, who made the team to the World Championships outdoors last year, the field behind him did drop off drastically. Now, shout out to Chris Robinson, of course, 400 meter hurdles and 400, he's been making waves. He ran 44, I think 44 low or 44.0 or 1 outdoors last year, but we're not seeing, the Chris Baileys like we saw last year. We're not seeing, of course, Vernon Norwood or, some of the other guys, right? I'm blanking a little bit on the top of my head, but, we're not seeing some of those high quality guys, Ja'Cory Patterson, of course, right? We don't see some of those guys who we might have expected potentially to see indoors. But one thing to first talk about is just the men's 60 meters. So this was probably the most high quality sprint race that we did see on the track this past weekend. And in general, it actually did, I would say, live up to expectations in terms of how thrilling it was, how exciting it was, the storylines that we did have here. As we've spoken about, Jordan Anthony, he was able to get the win running 6.45 seconds ahead of Trayvon Bromell, who ran 6.47, and then Noah Lyles in his season's opener 6.51. I know a few people were coming at me saying this wasn't an upset, this was Noah Lyles' first race. I just put a little title there. I wasn't saying it was an upset. It was a question like, was this an upset because of how people perceive Noah Lyles? And I think that's one thing being in the building that is really important to kind of contextualize, because Noah Lyles is the true presence of course, sprinting in general, but track and field, as well, along with other names like a Gabby Thomas, Sydney McLaughlin-Roney, Shakira Richardson, et cetera, Tara Davis-Woodhall. But when it came to USA Indoors, and of course, specifically talking about the sprints, many people were there specifically to see Noah Lyles. And when he ran, even in the prelims of the 60 meters, and he won his prelim, running 6.56, I think, the crowd went crazy. Like the crowd went absolutely crazy. Like Noah Lyles, he won his prelim. He won this race. Even if, some people had context, some people were young and maybe didn't have context, but it was just like Noah Lyles celebrating, crossing the line in his preliminary round, and being able to get that win. That was a major, major moment for a lot of people. And so when you look at an entire race that includes Jordan Anthony, who has the fastest time in the world, that includes Trayvon Bromell, who's a former world indoor champion, people's eyes and focus are still going to be on Noah Lyles. So that kind of does bring the idea of like, okay, was this an upset? Was Noah Lyles supposed to win? But I think many of us know that Noah Lyles is opening up his 60-meter season. He's run 300s and 200s, but dropping down into a 60 is significantly different. So even to see him run 6.51 and finishing third place, that is a big, big performance. I think many of us can understand that. But general public, or maybe people who are just there for, who are a little more casual, not as like tapped into a degree, and don't know a Jordan Anthony, right? And maybe they vaguely know Trayvon, but not like super familiar. They're like, oh, wait, Noah Lyles, he lost, right? So that's where potential upset conversation comes into play. But outside of all of that, we know that the top two, they're now going to the World Indoor Championships. Jordan Anthony, Trayvon Bromell, both of them confirmed. The question that I have is, what should we potentially expect from both of these guys at the World Indoor Championships? There's a ton of guys that they're going to have to contend with, at the top, around the world. But Jordan Anthony, he's the world leader at 6.43 seconds. And I'm just going to quickly bring up the top list here. Jordan Anthony, he's a world leader at 6.43 seconds. Trayvon Bromell, he now slots himself into number 2 in the world, having run 6.47. And then you have a few other, Ajayi, actually, yes. So from the NCAA's, apologies. Ajayi, he actually ran 6.45. Malachi Snow, 6.46. I'm not counting out Kashane and Brian Lavelle, their outdoor times, but Trayvon Bromell with that 6.47. I think I paused because the questions around Ajayi going to World Indoors, not sure if that's going to happen, considering he will be going to NCAA championships. I think World Indoor Championships is just a week or so after NCAA. So Questionable if he'll actually go all the way over there and then have to, jump back outdoors. And Malachi Snow, of course, for the USA, he can't go because he didn't qualify. But we're looking at Trayvon Bromell and Jordan Anthony as like the top two guys in the world heading to World Indoors right now. Now, of course, you do have other guys like Eloy Benitez, who just ran this 6.48 seconds he ran it at a meet on Thursday, and I think he false started at the South American Indoor Championships this past weekend. But he's in the conversation there. Akeem Blake, this 6.48, it's outdoors. He's run 6.53 seconds indoors so far. But he, of course, is a bronze medalist from 2024. So he's in that conversation. And then a couple other guys across the board as well. I would say that most people would probably see Jordan Anthony clear of a favorite Jordan Anthony is. After running 6.43, after running 6.45, after running, what did he run? He ran 6.4. Oh, well, yeah, 6.45. Like he's run 6.4 more consistently now. Last year he ran 6.47 and 6.49. Is he the favorite? I think most of us can agree that's the case, but is he the clear favorite? That's where the question comes into play. When you add in the conversation around Trayvon Bromell having run not only the 6.47, but also having run 6.49 seconds in the heats at USA's, then that starts to display a level of consistency from someone who is very experienced. Obviously, he's the world indoor champion, and he is getting better and better, right? This indicates that he is healthy. Trayvon Bromell's 6.47, that's the fourth fastest time of his entire career. He actually ran this time, this 6.47. This was a time he ran to win the gold medal back in 2016. So we're now seeing the resurgence of someone who is obviously well experienced and is, again, back in some really good, healthy form. So he might actually present, a good challenge for Jordan Anthony, even though Jordan has run significantly faster than him. But maybe Jordan Anthony takes it to a whole nother level. I don't know. On the flip side, we could see someone like Akeem Blake. Again, the 6.48 is not indicative of what he's actually run. I like to separate those indoor and outdoor times. But in 2026, when just looking at his 60-meter times, he's run this is Akeem Blake. He's run 6.53 as his season's best, right? He's run 6.55, right? So he's run a few indoor times that are relatively strong. And then in terms of personal best indoors, he's run 6.42 seconds. This was at the New Balance. Let me get the actual one. He's run 6.43 seconds as his personal best indoors. Oh, okay. I'm completely off. So he ran 6.45 seconds as his personal best indoors. This was at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix back in 2024. That led to him getting the bronze medal, later on that year at the World Indoor Championships, where I think he did run the 6.46, right? So he's going to be in that conversation to potentially challenge for a gold medal, even if he's drastically farther down than Jordan Anthony. So these are kind of the things that I'm thinking about over the next few weeks as we lead into the World Indoor Championships. Jordan Anthony is the favorite, but is he the clear favorite? Maybe, maybe not. His first, international championships, maybe the stakes aren't as high as it would be for a World Outdoor or an Olympic Games, but there's still that pressure to live up to the expectations. There's still that pressure to, take down the other guys who aren't as fast. There still is going to be that pressure from a Trayvon Bromell who's been there, done that, not only indoors, but he's been there outdoors as well, right? Remember, Trayvon Bromell won the 60-meter gold medal after he already won a 100-meter bronze medal at the 2015 World Championships behind Usain Bolt and Justin Gatlin, right? So he has that level of experience and that poise to show up when it counts the most. Even at a championships like this, indoors at USA's, where it's like, he wasn't able to potentially show up at certain times. He dealt with injuries. He dealt with setbacks. Maybe there was pressure to get back on a team after 10 years, but he was able to run some of his best times. So that's what Jordan Anthony is going to be, contending with as he does, look forward to the World Indoor Championships. And that'll be something to really take into consideration. But overall, I think Jordan Anthony, he's my favorite going into World Indoors, but it's not going to be a foregone conclusion yet, right? There's still some work to be done. So that's just the men's 60. Just a few others. Like I said, the women's 60 was, in my opinion, unfortunately, really disappointing in terms of the quality across the board. Shout out to Jason Sears for not only showing up, running 6.05 and then 6.04 to eventually get the win. Again, apologize for the background noise. but showing that consistency throughout her 2026 season, where she's been able to run, 702. She's been able to run 704. She's been able to run 705. She's been able to run, I think, 710 this year. She's showing a decent level of consistency that puts her in the conversation for a medal at World Indoor Champs. Now, let's be very clear. When you get into the realm of the Julian Alfreds, the Zainab Dosos, the Patricia Van der Weekens, the Amy Hunts, the Dean Asher Smith, those are the women that she's going to have to contend with at the World Indoor Champs, and we haven't seen her actually do so yet. Whereas all those other women, they actually have individual medals, right? Either indoors or out. Julian Alfred, 2024 World Indoor Champion, and then of course Olympic champion, World Outdoor, bronze medalist. You have Zainab Doso, silver medalist from last year in the 60, and then bronze medalist from 2024. Patricia Van der Weegen, she got the bronze medal last year in the 60. Dean Asher Smith hasn't run World Indoors in her career, but she does have the outdoor medals in 2022 in the 200, the bronze, 2019 gold in the 200 and silver in the 100. And even Amy Hunt, right? Amy Hunt has run, has gotten the bronze medal in the 200 outdoors last year. So again, Jason Sears, on times and on the clock, she has that, talent, and she has that ability to be. All right, let's see. No, I think this is still not. Let's see. Oh, maybe. Let me know if the audio came back up. Think it might have come back. Okay, cool. Appreciate it. Apologize for that. I don't know what happened. Cool. My bad. Hopefully it stays. We'll see if it sticks. If it doesn't, definitely let me know. But as I was saying, all I was saying is behind Jason Sears, is just, I was very disappointed with just the field. And this is no disrespect to any athlete who competed, because shout out to the Maxwell twins running 713 and 714. Mia Maxwell actually equaling the U18, U18 world record in the 60 meters. I'm gonna just cross check here, but I'm pretty sure she equaled it. I don't know if it's like official, ratified, et cetera, but she was able to equal that, the 60 meters. Oh no, all time. The Maxwell twins, like they really showed up, and they put down amazing performances across the board, even despite whatever it may be. Yep. So Lisa Ray had the world U18 60-meter record at 7.13 seconds, run at the Millrose Games last year, and now Mia Maxwell, she actually ties that here, right? If her age is correct, I am not 100% sure about her age. She may be turning 18 later this year, but not exactly sure. But the point is, like, shout out to them. And then the field really does drop down. Aaliyah Armstrong, she won the 60-meter hurdles the day before, and she was able to double back here, getting 5th place, but, in the mix there. And Navia Battle, she actually said that she was running the 60 meters for the first time since she was in college. So it was kind of just like, just like experimenting to a degree. But we didn't see a high quality field. And I'll probably do another video on this at a separate point, but I was looking back through history, and at the United States at USA Indoor Championships, most of the top women used to compete frequently indoors in the 60 meters. And I'm talking about the top women, right? Tiana Madison, Tori Bowie, Carmelita Jeter, Lauren Williams. Like every time you go back through history, Angela Williams from back in the 90s and 2000s, right? Like they would actually compete frequently at the USA Indoor Championships. But kind of in the last 5 to 6 years, that kind of went away, where we don't see the top women. We've seen, and I'm saying like the top 100-meter women, we've seen the likes of Aaliyah Hobbs actually compete, at USA Indoors very frequently. And I say her because she's made World Championship finals. She's run, 10-8 outdoors, but we don't see that consistency across the board. And to the point of the comment, like we see most of the women, unfortunately, in Dennis Mitchell's group, and, they just don't compete. That whole group just doesn't compete at indoors at all. So that kind of takes away all those names between Melissa Jefferson Wooden, Shakira Richardson, Kayla White, right? TT Terry, all those names who are some literally the top women in the United States right now. So a little disappointed in terms of this quality, but hopefully we'll be able to see Jason Sears go to the World Indoor Champs and challenge for a medal. I don't know if she's going to eventually get a medal, in Poland, but we'll see if she's able to challenge for a medal. All those women are kind of in the same realm of being competitive, on the world stage when talking about the 60 meters. Again, between Jason Sears, Amy Hunt, Patricia Van der Weeken, Zainab Doso, and then Julian Alfred, maybe a slight step above. Add in Iwa Sobota. I know she just ran a slight season's best already this year. So overall, very interesting in terms of the 60 meters. Shout out to some of the other events that did go down, but we'll see how the USA plays out. I was, again, just to highlight that, relatively a little disappointed in the quality of USA Indoors on the sprint side and some of the jump side. The men's high jump, there was no athlete who has the World Championship standard, and I don't think any athlete is going to go to World Indoors. The men's long jump, Cordell Tinch and Kennedy Stringfellow, those are the only two athletes who had, the World Championship standard, and Cordell Tinch finishes like 5th or 6th place. Stringfellow is like last place, but Cordell Tinch, he's going to World Indoors, right? And he could actually challenge for a medal. So even Cordell, he was speaking about how just the crowd at USA Indoors, this is the last thing I'll note, the crowd at USA Indoors just was they weren't really as energized for the majority of the meet. And almost like there were points in the meet, even I felt this as I was there, where there was just like complete downtime, and they were just like waiting for something to happen, whether it was a jump that they could have said, all right, you go ahead and start to jump. But there was just like complete downtime. Nothing was going on the track. So there were some aspects that, hopefully could be addressed, because as we do go to outdoors with the outdoor championships in New York City, I don't think this is of the nature of what occurs in New York City to a degree, but I hope that some of these things as part of USA Championships will be addressed, because we haven't seen one outside of Eugene for a few years now, right? I think 2019 was the last time that we had USA's outdoors not in Eugene. So it'll be interesting to see how USA's is, orchestrated in New York City, how it actually is, what the turnout looks like, what the attendance is like, what the energy is like, all of that across the board. But I will say for indoors last year, I feel like it was a little bit better, despite it being on Staten Island. But indoors this year, it was a little toned down. But is what it is. And of course, I'm highlighting some of the sprints, and check out my other videos for the just the initial reactions from the jumps and the field events and stuff on the City Smack podcast. Chris Chavez and Magithia, apologize. They were able to kind of go through the entire meet across the board. So definitely check that out. But that's USA Indoors. Very quick takeaways. And let me just highlight some of y'all comments, because I did see we're saying, like you said, most of the top women in the US are part of one single training group that doesn't compete indoors. Like 100% fact. And that's a challenge. So Melissa Jefferson Wooden said in an interview with Anson that she wanted to do the 60 this year, but didn't want to return to training so soon for it after the late season. Yeah, and I think if I remember that interview as well, she also was saying that like Dennis Mitchell doesn't just generally doesn't focus on indoors. And I think, well, Christian Coleman, he's been doing his training series and things like that. But he also spoke about how, Dennis Mitchell and the group, they're just like, outdoors is where it's all at. That's like the focus for everyone. So it's, no need to kind of focus on indoors. But I guess we as the fans, maybe we lose out a little bit, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. And before I just jump on to the next thing, um, yeah, as I noted, yeah, the women's 60-meter field is quite sad. Our quote unquote indoor merchants, as Coach Rob says, right, are falling off since 2023. Makai Briscoe, Solera Barnes, Aaliyah Hobbs, Mary Beth Saint, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's tough. It is very tough. And as I said, maybe again, I'll probably do a separate video on this, but historically, prior to 2018, so from 2016 and the years before, anytime there was a World Indoor Championships, we saw the top USA women on the line competing for titles in the 60 meters. We saw Tori Bowie, right? We saw Carmelita Jeter. We saw Tiana Madison. We saw Lauren Williams, right? And we saw Tori Edwards. These are the top women in the United States for decades, right? For absolute decades. And they competed indoors in the 60 meters. Many of them, including Carmelita Jeter, Tiana Madison. I think Tiana Madison has 2 medals in the 60 meters, right? They competed very frequently, but we just, we don't see it like that anymore. So I don't know. It's very, very, very tough. All right. Yep. Okay. So very good point. As usual at Global Champs, there will be favorites that underperform and others that step up and level up. Absolutely. And that's why I say someone like Jordan Anthony is a favorite for the 60 meters, but I don't think he's separated himself enough to say he is the absolute clear favorite, right? This isn't like a Christian Coleman situation where, all right, Christian Coleman, goes to the World Indoor Champs and he's probably going to get a gold. Even though, yes, 2022, that was like his first year back. So he lost to, Marcel Jacobs. Even in 2024, when he did lose at USA's to Noah Lyles, I think many people can kind of see there was still a gap. And Christian Coleman ends up winning gold in a time that was much faster than what Noah has been able to do. So that's not one of those situations that we're looking at now. It's a very kind of competitive landscape that we're looking at. So we'll see. Yeah, and I definitely think I agree. I think Noah running 6.51 and 6.56 without a prep meet to open the 60 was quite impressive. I definitely think he's capable of running faster than his season's best from last year and could go 9.8 low again. Absolutely. And I asked him when I was at New York this past weekend, I asked him about that 150 race in Ostrava, and he said he's going to be there. So he's committed to running all these different kinds of events throughout the year. He has no structured plan yet, but he wants to be out there in 2026. So we'll see how that actually does play out. All right. Let's see, before I jump over to my next one. Okay, we're not too bad on time. Let me see. So could you see any shock medalists in the men's 60 from Europe? Of course. I mean, shock medalists, here's a potential podium. Could you imagine a podium that's Jordan Anthony, Trayvon Bromell, and Jeremiah Azu? I could. Could you imagine a podium that's, Akeem Blake, Jeremiah Azu, and Jordan Anthony, right? I can imagine that. I think Jeremiah Azu, by way of him being the world indoor champion and having run 6.49 seconds, I think that puts him in the conversation for, maybe not even a surprise. Now, on time, it may be tougher. I don't know if on time. I don't know. I think we'd be hard pressed to say that someone this year running 6.51 wouldn't, be capable of getting on the podium, right? I think that's very, very possible. And it wouldn't surprise me too much. And that's just Jeremiah Azu, right? I know Ramel Glaive, he hasn't been looking very great in 2026. He had that one fast race, but he hasn't been looking really, really good. Even outside of him, and I'm just going to bring this up one more time to show this here, but even outside of him, Eloy Benitez, he's looked, pretty good. He looked pretty good, relatively consistent, right? Ramel Glaive, again, the 6.51, it's not consistent enough, but who knows? Iliev, I'm not as familiar with Iliev, but just to kind of check what he's done in terms of performances and stuff, I'd love to see some consistency. Okay, 6. Okay, not too bad. This is actually not too bad. If you're running, this is not too bad. 6.53 at Balkan Championships, and this was 2 weeks ago. And then you have him running 6.451 at Bulgarian Indoor Championships and 6.59. I actually think that's pretty good, right? This would be an example of someone who could pull an upset, right? Shout out to Iliev, right? If I'm pronouncing his name correctly, apologize. So yeah, who knows? We could see that. And okay, so a guy from Belgium ran a 60-meter national record today. So possible. Possible. And I didn't even see it. I haven't even like cross-checked. But we could see. Yeah, I think a healthy Eloy Benitez can absolutely medal. The thing you need to think about with Eloy Benitez is obviously last year he was in the 60-meter final at World Indoor Championships. This year, he's already run his national record of 6.48 seconds. Again, he did false start in this South American Indoor Champs, but he just ran 6.48. So this is a very strong performance, and this is indoors. Last year, he did get injured in the final, but what I also like about this year is at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix, he finishes second place to Akeem Blake. At the Millrose Games, he finishes second place to Akeem Blake. And he actually finishes ahead of Jordan Anthony. Now, again, I'm not picking Eloy Benitez ahead of Jordan Anthony, but I think this puts him in the conversation of I have been able to actually compete with some of the top guys on the circuit around the world. So you can't count me out when we do get to World Indoor Champs, right? That's what I think about with someone like Eloy Benitez as to why he should definitely be in that conversation, right? Definitely be in that conversation. All right. Yeah, completely agree. So shout out to the field events. Yeah. Again, this is what I spoke with Cordell Tinch about, where he was saying that, they in the stadium, the crowd wasn't there for him and for like the field eventers, and like there was a lot of downtime that it was like very, very strange. So I can imagine what it looked like on the broadcast. And field eventers are unfortunately always going to be treated like second class citizens to a degree. But one day I'm actually thinking maybe as we get closer to World Indoors, maybe in the next week or two, I might start just like a quick weekly thing where I just highlight the jumps, like some of the top performances in the jumps, because I know I would love to in the throws. I'm not as I mean, I can like definitely the shot put I can like hold my own, but my man Paulie throws, definitely check him out as he's always holding things down. But I might start something weekly on the jumps to just like give some highlights, because I love some of the competitions as we look forward to World Indoors. The women's long jump is going to be very good. The women's triple jump is going to be very good. The men's long jump, the men's high jump. We just saw Sarah Boykov in the high jump. He just jumped 2.28 meters, which makes him number 11 in the world this year. That puts him right in the conversation to potentially medal in the high jump at World Indoors, which would then potentially, obviously he's the world leader in the long jump right now with 8.45 meters, and he jumped 8.42 meters as well. So he can be a double threat in both the long jump and the high jump at the World Indoor Champs. And they don't conflict on days. The high jump is on day 2. The long jump is on day 3. So listen, we can see some good stuff. The pole vault, I'm gonna get to the pole vault at the end, because we already know the pole vault might be one of the top events in 2025. No joke. Like all across the board. Yes, we know what Manolo Karalis, what he just did, but across the board, pole vault is insane. So we're gonna talk about that in a second. All right, so I'm gonna jump over real quick. I've looked at it, but I haven't like dove too deep into it. I'll look at it a little bit later this week to just like dive in and see like the rankings and stuff. But athletes have until March 8th, so next week Sunday or this coming Sunday, to be able to solidify either their qualifying time or their actual world ranking. So we'll see how that actually does play out. Okay. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to quickly do, I'm going to run through this one relatively quickly. I do just want to briefly touch upon Jamaica in the women's 60 meters, and I guess overall, but I am curious how Jamaica is going to choose and select their the athletes that will go to the World Indoor Championships in the 60 meters. This applies to the women and the men. I'm just focusing in on the women though, because I spoke with Lance Brahman while I was at the USA Indoor Champs. Of course, he coaches Noah Lyles, Jordan Anthony, Kayla McRae, Chris Robinson. Like he coaches a whole bunch of athletes there. But he also coaches Brianna Liston. And Brianna Liston, she already ran 7.07 seconds. This was at the Tyson Invite, where she finished third place behind Julian Alfred and Jason Sears. Brianna Liston, if she gets accepted by the JAAA, by Team Jamaica, then she will go to the World Indoor Championships. Lance Brahman actually does want her to go to the World Indoor Champs, and he's seeing that she's making. He wants to have her make steady progress, but not rush into things. And going to the World Indoor Champs actually allows her to continue to make that steady progress, right? So she's coming back from injury over the past year. She was the NCAA indoor champion in 2024, but since then, while she was at LSU, she picked up some injuries. And then really is now when she's getting back into things since becoming a pro. We saw her run at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. We saw her run at the Tyson Invitational. And now if she does get selected by Team Jamaica to go to World Indoors, then she would run there. Again, this is what Lance Brahman told me. He would love to have her get selected, but the selection process is a little bit up in the air. Now, I think for most of us and for, the Jamaicans watching or Jamaican fans watching, I think most people would probably agree that Jonelle Smith should be and needs to be selected for the World Indoor Championship team. Like, I don't think there should be a discussion around that because she has been arguably the most consistent 60-meter sprinter out of Jamaica in 2026, right? She was able to not only beat out Tina Clayton this past weekend at the Gibson McCook Relays, where she had she literally was sleeping in the blocks. Absolutely sleeping in the blocks. And because of that, she was able to run down. And despite that, she was able to run down Tina Clayton, getting her literally on the line in the final meters. But on top of that, she also ran at the, I think it was the Stockholm meeting, and she was actually able to, I'm going to cross check here, but she was actually able to take down both of the Clayton twins, both Tina and Tia Clayton, while she was running down in Stockholm. And she actually won that race. And that's a major international meeting, right? We're talking about one of the biggest international meetings indoors. And she was able to run 7.12 seconds, taking down both Tina and Tia Clayton, right? And yes, this wasn't taking down Zainab Doso, Amy Hunt, et cetera, or, Patricia. This wasn't that kind of field. But when we're talking about selection for Team Jamaica to go to the World Indoor Champs, I think Jonelle Smith seems like she should be, the one to really be, selected. After that, Brianna Liston seems like she should be in that conversation, but does it maybe depend on what happens with Tia Clayton and Tina Clayton? Does, Coach Stephen Francis decide that he wants them to go to the World Indoor Championships, right? If I remember last year, both Tia Clayton and Kashane Thompson were announced to be going to World Indoors, but then they pulled out last minute. But this year, there's no World Championships, right? There's no Olympic Games. Now, they do have Commonwealth Games, but I say that because maybe since there's no major outdoor championships, quote unquote, major outdoor championships, they might decide, hey, let's go for that World Indoors, right? I spoke about this, I think, on a previous live about Kashane Thompson. I don't know, but I think when looking at, Team Jamaica, I personally would love to see Jonelle and Brianna Liston going to World Indoor Champs, but who knows what may occur. And I'm going to get to some of the other comments, but just noting here where you say time should matter for decisions. In general, I do agree time should matter, but I also think about consistency to a degree, right? Someone like Jonelle Smith, she may not have a faster time than Tia Clayton, but she's taken down Tia Clayton in a head-to-head race indoors in the 60, right? She's taken down Tina Clayton both indoors and outdoors in a 60, right? So those aspects do come into play on the head-to-heads, the consistency across the board. Those are some things that I'm thinking about, right? But I do think times, should come into play for sure. So, we'll see how that does play out. And shout out to some of the other women between, Shanice Walker's in the NCAA. You have Williams, you have Cole, you have Slowly. Like, you have a couple other women who are in that conversation, but, we'll see how I think, if I'm correct, they have a national championship selection meet this weekend or something of the sorts. I don't know if there's any entries for it yet, but, that's something that potentially may, come into play, but we'll see. Definitely something to keep an eye out for. And similar on the men's side, who will actually be selected for there. But, we'll see what actually does play out. One thing to highlight, Dynamics, definitely. If you haven't already, go check out Light and Levy. He put out a video yesterday, right? Yesterday, or maybe it was Sunday, but he put out a video where he kind of broke down Jonelle's history and like her progression. Because we saw, her from 2019, where she made the final in the 100 meters. She ran the third leg and she finished 6th place at the World Championships in the 100 meters. She ran the third leg, for Jamaica on the 4x1, getting the gold medal there. but then she got in a car accident, and it's been a good it's been a journey for her to be able to get back. And it wasn't until last year that she really started to find her form. And this is kind of, things come into fruition for her right now. Now she is, she just turned 30 years old in January, but she seems to be in form. Like, she seems to be in some great form. Now, 10-8, it's definitely, that's definitely it's not going to be easy because she hasn't broken 11 seconds in her career yet. Now, by far, she is definitely running sub 11 seconds. Like, she definitely should be running sub 11 seconds this year for sure. Her personal best, I think, is 11.03. 10-8, I think it's very possible as well. As long as she continues on this trajectory, I think not only, again, 10-8, it's not easy, but I think she should run 10-8 sometime this year. And I would like to see her on the team for Commonwealth Games if she continues on this path. Now, the Jamaican team is going to be competitive, right? Where you're looking at Tia and Tina Clean. You're looking at Brianna Liston. Who knows what form Elaine Thompson-Herah will be in by the time we get to August. So those are some of the considerations, but this might be the year that Jonelle Smith is really going to, take off and really kind of redeem herself despite all the setbacks that she dealt with over the past, it's been almost 5 years at this point, from 2019 all the way to 2020, 25, 24. So, we'll see what it actually does play out. But yes, definitely check out Lighton's video. Sorry, I didn't even read it. So Lighton explained what happened in last night's stream. Sorry, I was talking off the cuff. Lighton has an actual individual video that y'all should check out. But yes, on the stream, I didn't catch the stream, but she's slow when the set is called. As she was still rising, the gun went off. Yeah, that's a good point. So listen, as she kind of fixed things, I think 10-8 is actually in the cards. Definitely in the cards. Very much in the cards. Yeah, about the Commonwealth Games. I agree. I want to see her there. So Elaine Thompson-Herah, Brianna Liston, and Jonelle, they should all be going in the 100 at Commonwealth Games. They need it the most. Yes, I agree. But I do wonder what are the plans for the Clayton twins, right? Like, do we end up seeing them going to the Commonwealth Games because this would be their first one, right? Or do we see them hold off? And it's like, especially someone like Tia Clayton, who didn't make the individual team to World Championships last year, right? Do they maybe say, yo, we want you to go to Commonwealth Games to, once again, build up that experience. You made the Olympic final, you missed it last year, but now you get the chance to go to Commonwealth. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know. Or maybe they go a different route. We saw in, someone could cross-check me, but like 2010, Shelly-Ann got banned, so she wasn't there. I was going to say, even 2014, like Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, if I'm remembering correctly, during the peak of her career, like from 2008 to 2022, 23, 24, she never ran individually at the Commonwealth Games in the 100, right? I don't think she ever ran the 100 meters at the Commonwealth Games. Obviously, Elaine Thompson-Herah, she has, but she didn't do it until 2022. I don't remember Elaine running it. She ran the 200 one of the years, but and then, again, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so someone could cross-check me, but I wonder if Stephen Francis takes a different approach for, Tia and Tina Clayton, where I'm saying, maybe they do go to Commonwealth Games, but maybe based on how, he's worked with some of the other top sprinters like Shelly and Elaine in the past, maybe they don't go to Commonwealth Games and he kind of saves them. And yeah, peak, it's crazy. I was trying to like think of her peak in my mind, and I'm like, yo, she won gold in 2008 and she won gold in 2022. And she got bronze in 2023 running 10-7. So I'm like, peak, I don't know. So yes, literally peak is wild, but she's a GOAT. So it is what it is. All right. But yeah, we'll see what happens with them. Yes, agree. So this is a good point as it relates to Jonelle, right? She's 30, but she hasn't ran all those years. So she has a lot of running left in those legs. Absolutely. Completely agree. So yes, you're actually convincing me more and more that 10-8 is very possible. And let me tell you something. If someone like Natasha Morrison, who's been a mainstay for Jamaica in terms of like their relays, she's made individual teams. Like if she can run 10-8, I think someone like Jonelle Smith can also run 10-8. So, that definitely is something in the conversation there. Yeah. So if Jonelle Smith can hold her form, I could see her making the Jamaican World and Olympic team for Beijing and LA. Woo. Okay. That's interesting. For medal, I need to see sub 11 and sub 10-9 first. That is very interesting because what you're essentially saying is for her to hold her form. I think most people can probably agree Tia and Tina Clayton are probably like the two that most people say, all right, assuming all things are healthy, all things are fair, they're probably going to be on the teams. Brianna Liston, if she's now getting back into good form, what does that mean for another spot on the team? If Elaine Thompson-Herah, if the conversation around her is that by this year she's going to be running 10.8, what does that mean for next year? Right? Like that's where it gets very tricky. That's where it gets very tricky. And that's to say nothing of someone like Alana Reed, who's still extremely young, but, has a potential. She ran 10.9, back in 2020, was it 2023? I think she ran 10.9. 2023, she ran 10.9, I think, at the LA Grand Prix. But, there's a couple different things to look at. I don't know, but we'll see. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, take the twins in the relay. Should be running Diamond League anyway to qualify for Ultimate Championships. Yeah, actually, I agree. They should, but that's the thing. Like, who knows what Stephen Francis may have in store, or their team may have in store. Who knows? Elaine, so going to be a tough selection. If Elaine is running 200 this year, they may have her only go to Commonwealth Games in the 200. No, I mean, well, who knows? But in my opinion, no, I agree with all in the game. Keep Elaine away from the 200 this year. I think specifically this year, like, I don't see a reason for her to run the 200, especially because Commonwealth Games is at the top. It's like the first week of August. I think it's like August 7th or something around that realm. So that means she would have to be in good enough 200-meter form by like June, July to be ready to qualify for Commonwealth Games, right? And then compete at the Commonwealth Games against Julian Alfred, right? Julian Alfred is probably going to go to Commonwealth and be like, yo, I want some of this. Shawnee Miller-Weibo, who knows what she actually might do? She might show up at Commonwealth and be like, hey, I'm saying I want to really dip my toes in there. That might be a whole different conversation around Elaine running the 200. I think the 100 is where she should, in my opinion. Obviously, we're just having our own opinion, but I think that's where she should focus her energy for this year and then reevaluate as the years go on. But maybe, Coach Walcott has a whole different idea and they're rolling. So who knows? But we'll see what actually does happen. Yeah, so then we disagree for once. I'm just forcing scenarios. I said on the last stream, Elaine Thompson-Herah shouldn't run the 200 this year too. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's I feel like it's so risky because this year, sure, Commonwealth Games, Ultimate Championships, but I think most of us would like to see Elaine Thompson-Herah potentially show up for the World Championships next year, right? Be in good enough form where she can qualify for that team. Because I think historically, this is where it gets tough, but historically, when we start to look back at Elaine Thompson-Herah's career, obviously, she's already kind of solidified herself as one of the greats, but let's say she wins another Commonwealth Games medal. Let's say she wins another Commonwealth Games gold medal. I don't think that would be looked at in the same realm as if she was able to get back on a team for the World Championships in Beijing next year and got any medal. Let's say she got a bronze medal in the 100 meters. I actually think that would be looked at a little more highly than winning a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games in 2026, right? Only because of the status of it, right? I mean, it's weird. It's really weird, but I think don't even risk it for this year. So we'll see, but definitely not the 200. We'll see. Yeah, okay. And the last one here is just, impossible to predict a team for Worlds and the Olympics with 4 athletes coming back slowly from injury. Yeah, Sharika Jackson, Elaine Thompson-Herah, Jonelle Smith, and Brianna Liston. It's true, man. Who knows? It's so unpredictable. So unpredictable. But hey, that's the nature of sprinting across the board, at least in Jamaica for the time being. All right, so let's quickly just talk about Gout Gout and this 200. So Gout Gout was announced. I'll be relatively brief here, but Gout Gout was announced to run the 200 along with Kenny Bednarek and Letsile Tebogo at the Prefontaine Classic this year. It's going to be going down on July 7th, 2026 in Eugene. So last year, if you remember, Letsile Tebogo, he got the win. Prior to that, Kenny Bednarek, he actually was slated to go up against Letsile, but he had to pull out due to a little, I forget what, he had picked up some strain or some tightness in his leg, because he had to prepare for USAs. That's the nature of the sport. These big meets don't mean as much because USAs, World Championships, those are the things that matter. But now this, I think, is a big, big move because, and I'll say this, I don't know if you've watched like maybe some of the previous lives, I kind of hinted at the idea that we would see Gout Gout in like big races. This is one of the big races, right? Like this is not Monaco from last year, right? Where they created a U23, race. I was pretty disappointed with that, right? I was pretty disappointed with that. Nah, this is Gout Gout lining up against Kenny B, right? To a multiple time silver medalist. This is Gout Gout lining up against Letsile Tebogo, Olympic gold medalist. This is an actual, in theory, you could say this is his quote unquote first major race outside of the World Championships last year, when we're talking about against the top athletes in the world. World Championships, he ran all the way up into the semifinals. I think in that semifinal race was Letsile and Brian Lavelle, but now we're seeing him in a Diamond League race, right? Not last year at the Monaco Diamond League where he ran that U23 race, and then later on in the day we see Noah Lyles and Letsile Tebogo. Nah, this is head to head, and this is what everyone has been looking for. And yes, he's going to run some more of these, and I think the key is, this will be great preparation for him. Well, actually, yes, all in the game, you actually did say it. So this is going to be good preparation for him heading into the World U20 Championships in Eugene. I know many people are a little maybe critical of him, running World U20s instead of the Commonwealth Games. But as, I've spoken about, as, he's done in interviews and articles and stuff like that, where they are looking long term. They are looking on how far can we make sure that we extend his career or maintain him so that he can have, extended career. I think this is a good setup for him. Dip your toes into these one-off races, which are still big races, Prefontaine Classic, maybe some other meets throughout the year. Focus on U20s where you still get to quote unquote step back, but it's still your realm. At the end of the day, Gout Gout is still a U20 athlete. Take advantage of that opportunity. Remember, 2024, he got the silver medal behind Bayan de Walaza. He wants to get a gold medal, right? And he's going to be at Eugene. I would much rather see Gout Gout try and win a gold medal and run a fast time on that track in Eugene than go to the Commonwealth Games and, maybe he can run fast. I mean, he probably would run fast, but that Hayward Magic, that Eugene track, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the stuff that we want to see. So I'm excited for Gout Gout to now get 2 opportunities to run in Eugene, one at the Prefontaine Classic against high quality competition that's going to actually challenge him and potentially pull him to a very fast time. By the time we get to July, he may have already run, 19 sub 20, right? He's run the windy 19.8, right? He's run a windy 19.9. By this time of year, he'll probably be at those times already, maybe. So, we'll see. But I'm excited to see Gout Gout here, and then I'm excited to see him go to the World U20 Championships and try and get a gold medal there. Just little stepping stones and progress for his career, and I think this is a good move for him. All right, 2 comments, and then I think the last thing I'm going to talk about is just Karalis. But do you think people are giving Gout Gout too big of expectations? I'm not sure what you've seen, but for me, it's been a lot of people expecting him to compete for the win in these types of races. Yeah, absolutely. And even to a degree, I mean, I need to probably go back, but there's aspects of me where I think I've been hard on Gout Gout in some circumstances, right? So for example, at the World Championships last year, he's competing at the World Championships. So there's no like, I think he's lining up just like all the other guys, right? So obviously I'm going to comment on him as if he is one of the guys who's competing, to try and get a medal, to try and go through the rounds. But in terms of expectations, I think I tapered my expectations. I wasn't like, oh, if Gout Gout doesn't make the final, if Gout Gout doesn't get a medal, then it's like a big failure. No, like he actually exceeded expectations to me, making the semifinals. But I think because of his talent, I think because of the potential, I think because of how people or where people see he can actually go and what he can actually achieve, that's where those expectations come in. And people then, if those aren't met immediately, people are like, oh, damn, he underperformed. Oh, man, like this wasn't good enough. And I can understand from the, everyone's different perspective, but in my opinion, I think tapering expectations is actually going to lead to better outcomes and more enjoyment to a degree. Because Gout Gout, yes, he's running fast times, and yes, he's a pro, and yes, he's this, that, and whatever, but he's still a teenager. He still has many, many years to go in the sport. It like the Usain Bolt comparisons obviously are a little annoying to like, I can imagine they're very annoying, but Usain Bolt in 2002, in 2003, 2004, he was tearing things up. He was breaking U20 records across the board. He was winning, World U20s out in Jamaica, saluting to the crowd, all of that. But then we didn't get Usain Bolt, like the real Usain Bolt. We didn't get that until 2008, right? He didn't make it out the heats in the what was it, the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens, right? He didn't make it he made the final in 2005 in Helsinki, but he literally pulled up in the final out of lane 1, right? 2007, he finished second place. He literally, like, I was just watching that race the other day. Like, Tyson Gay was kind of cooking Usain Bolt in that race in the 200. He was like walking him down and pulling away. And then we finally get the real Usain Bolt in 2008. So we're talking about a 4-year stretch from 2004, where he breaks the world U20 record early in that year, all the way until 2008 before we actually see him, quote unquote, live up to expectations of what people might have expected. So I think with Gout Gout, personally, I'm going to taper my expectations and see it as like a gradual progression as he gets older and older. Like, he's going up against the Olympic champion and the double Olympic silver medalist and all that. Like, both of these guys have run 19.4 in the 200. Like, what do I expect from someone who's never broken 20 seconds? You know what I'm saying? So I think this is exciting, but for Gout Gout as an individual, this is a stepping stone. That's my personal kind of outlook on it. But everyone's going to see things a little bit differently. But no, that's a good question. Just to highlight here, Janelle should get a shoe deal soon. I hope she is looking good on her comeback. Let's see what else is on the cards. Absolutely. Janelle looks very, very good as she does make progress here. How poetic if Gout Gout to run sub 20 here at Pre in Eugene before World U20s in Eugene. Yeah, that would be crazy. But like, also think about it. Prefontaine Classic is on July 7th. I think he's going to run sub 20 before then. I think so. And again, he's obviously going to run races prior to the Prefontaine Classic, but keep an eye out for Gout Gout. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep an eye out for him. We may see more from him. Do you see Gout Gout moving to the US to train permanently at some point? Well, okay, 2 answers. 1, he's not moving to the US like anytime soon. That I can say pretty confidently. But 2, and I say that in the sense that prior to, so like when he got his deal with Adidas and when he kind of moved to Florida for like a few months to train with Noah Lyles and Pure Athletics, I actually thought that he might actually move sooner than later. But I don't think he's going to move. From my understanding, like, he's not moving anytime soon. Now, long term, I could see it potentially, right? I could see it. I think of it like, there's 2 things I'm thinking about now. 1, if his coach at home, maybe there's an aspect of like being able to consistently work with Gout Gout on a large scale as he continues to get bigger, as he continues to get more notoriety, as he continues to get stronger and older, and all those kind of aspects. Potentially there may be a move, but again, I think down the line, not anytime soon. The other thing that perked up my ears, so I was watching Athletics LLC, and so a couple weeks ago, I think someone asked me like, "Oh, what YouTube channels do you watch?" I can tell you this: Athletics LLC is the only track and field YouTube channel that I like drop everything and I watch, because I love that actual conversation. I'm like old school with stuff, so Athletics LLC. If you haven't, tap in. They interviewed Cordell Tinch this past week, and Cordell Tinch was talking about how he obviously is signed with Nike as a hurdler, and he shared that if he didn't perform well with his coach, because he's still in Pitt, and how all these shoe companies work between Nike, Adidas, et cetera, like, they want you to move to their different coaches. That's why we have Pure Athletics with Adidas. That's why we have Star Athletics with Dennis Mitchell, right? Even to a degree, you have the Tundra Booth Bailey in Austin, Texas, right? She's an Adidas coach with all her athletes. Cordell Tinch was speaking about how Nike and this is all public. You can check out the interview on Athletics LC. He was saying that like Nike wanted him to move to a specific group, but he wanted to stay at Pitt. And he kind of said, if I don't do XYZ, then I'll move, right? Like almost giving them like, listen, I got y'all. If I don't do this by the end of this year, then I'll move. He ended up winning the gold medal though. Well, I think he got injured in 2024, something like that. But essentially, like he ended up winning the gold medal last year. But if he didn't win the gold medal, or maybe if he didn't get a medal or something, it seems like he would have moved as per, Nike. And so I say that in the case of Gout Gout because maybe again, long term, if Gout Gout doesn't achieve some of the things that, the expectations by the time, like we're talking 4 years down the line, maybe he hasn't done, what people might have expected of him. Maybe he does move over to the United States to train with, I don't know, just as an example, Lance Brahman, because he's an Adidas coach, right? Maybe that does occur, but I feel confident now that he is not moving from Australia. So there's that. But good question. Every time Gout Gout is brought up, should always be noted that the great Usain Bolt didn't win his first gold medal until the 4th Senior Gold Championships. Oh wait, people need to calm down regarding Gout Gout. Yes, exactly as I broke down. Like shout out to you all in the game. Like people forget Usain Bolt was the young prodigy. It's hard because it was a different era, not only in terms of like. I mean, it was just such a different era. In 2002, 2003, 2004, Usain Bolt was that name, that rising star, that like super rising star. But he didn't win any medal until 2007 and then gold medal in 2008. And again, 2007, Usain Bolt got cooked by Tyson Gay. Go look back at some of the races in like 2006, 2007. Like on the circuit, Usain Bolt wasn't this dominant force. It was Wallace Spearman, Tyson Gay, Usain Bolt, Xavier Carter, LaShawn Merritt. Like you had a whole bunch of guys, Rodney Martin. It was all mixed in the conversation. It wasn't until 2008. So I think we need to slow down a little bit when we talk about Gout Gout and the expectations. That's my opinion. So yes, agree there. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Ariel Knight, and he set the standard high for a junior sprinter. True. But I mean, I don't know. Every athlete is going to be a little bit different. And Gout Gout hasn't even broken 20 seconds. Like he literally has not broken 20 seconds. I don't care. Windy times, sure. Obviously potential, sure. But he hasn't broken 20 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So I am tapering my expectations, especially if it's like, oh, Kenny B, come on now. Like, again, my opinion. Everyone's going to see things differently, and I respect it. Yeah, folks are just not using common sense when it comes to Gout, and they're not giving him grace, patience to grow. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, agree with dynamics there, right? Only place Gout should move down the line is Jamaica to Glenn Mills. I mean, that'd be interesting. And what's crazy is Glenn Mills is an Adidas coach. That's crazy. And what I do like, I'm thinking about it. The other example I was going to think about when I was talking about Cordell is what's his name? Wade Van Niekerk. Wade Van Niekerk, he did move to Lance Brahman in Pure Athletics after his, longtime coach. She was getting up there in age, and I think there was just aspects of being able to train Wade. So he moved down to Pure Athletics. But even remember back in the 2016? It must have been 2016, early in the year for like preseason. He trained with Usain Bolt down in Jamaica, and right, he trained with that group. So athletes can move around, but I'm just, from my understanding, Gout Gout is not moving anywhere on anytime soon. Let's say that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so a little too much by Athletics LLC, Reed Cordell, and long jump, and hanging World Indoor Championship gold around his neck, only for him to finish 6th at USA's. Yeah, so again, shout out to Athletics LLC. Those are my people, and like I said, that's like the one track and field channel where I'm like, yo, I gotta watch, because that's like sit down, in depth conversations. They're all super knowledgeable. They all been in the sport. Obviously, they definitely gave a lot of props to Cordell, where it's like, I don't think they gave as much recognition to Sarah Boykov and what he's done, or to Mattia Furlani, where it's like, Furlani, even as good as someone like Sarah Boykov has been in the long jump, I think Mattia Furlani, you can make an argument he's maybe the slight favorite. It's very competitive in the long jump, even though he hasn't jumped as far, because Furlani has been super consistent. So yes, I think Cordell, he's in that conversation to get on the podium, but like a gold medal is like, it's tough, right? It's very, very tough. It's very tough. I'd love to see it. and I'm rooting for Cordell, but it's not easy. Yes, shout out to Athletics LLC. And yes, like shout out to everyone for sure. Gary Card is still in the World U20 mix. I hope he will be participating. He ran 6.52 in the men's 60 meters, just concluded Gibson McCook relays. Yep. Yeah. Gary Card, definitely in the conversation. When I was at Champs last year, Gary Card, did he win the 100? If I'm correct at Champs, I forget. But, he's definitely in that conversation. So we'll see how he does progress. All right. Last thing I do want to quickly talk about is just the men's pole vault. And this is, y'all know what it is. Like Manolo Karalis. Manolo, he went crazy. 6.17 meters to become the second highest jumper in history. He now only sits behind Mondo Duplantis, who of course has a world record at 6.30, but this surpasses the 6.16 meters that Renaud Lavillenie had jumped all the way back in, I think, 2014. This is, again, second farthest in history. And what's interesting, I think I could do this. Let's see. I don't know if I can. We'll see. But in this, he had tons of room to spare. I don't know if it'll actually come up here, but he had tons of room to spare in the in this jump. Let's see if it actually comes up again. But I think that's what made this very, very special. And yeah, here's the jump. But that's what made this very, very special. He had so much room to spare over the bar. These were like the Mondo type jumps, right? The ones where it's like, Mondo gets over the bar and you see all that space above. That's what Karalis really showed here. Obviously, if we were to use like a laser to measure how much height he had, he probably would have jumped 6.20 meters or better, right? Look at that. Look at that. Like, you're talking about a massive amount of distance between his hips and the bar. That is Mondo level technique to a degree. Obviously, Mondo is jumping 630. We'll talk about Mondo in a second. But Karalis really showed up here, and this was a very, very impressive jump. Number 2 all time. Let me bring up the all time list in the men's pole vault. But again, look at this height. Look at this height. Like, he is way over the bar, and it's absolutely crazy. But when you talk about the pole vault, he's really making waves as number 2 all time, only behind Mondo Duplantis, right? He breaks Renaud Lavillenie. He surpasses that mark, and he set this all the way back in 2014, which was the world record before Mondo Duplantis actually broke it. And what was very impressive is he did this, in front of a home crowd in at the Greek national championships. So the energy was there. We know Manolo has that excitement. He has a smiles, right? He didn't have that pole vault group, side by side with him to really celebrate, but he brought that energy, and you can really feel it when you're just watching the video. Like, I loved this was by far. Yeah, I think this is probably my favorite performance of 2026 so far. Like, this was insane. Maybe I'm just all the time. I don't know. But it's really, really good. The other thing is, like, as I said, with the height, with him, becoming number 2 all time, he almost like enters the Mondo realm to a degree. Because if y'all remember, in 2020, and let's see if I bring this up, if this works properly. In 2020, if you remember, the first world record that Mondo Duplantis broke was 6.17 meters. He did this in Poland, right? This was all before the pandemic happened. He jumped 6.17 and he jumped 6.18, and then the pandemic kind of shut the world down. But now, Karalis kind of enters that realm of like, oh, okay, I've touched what Mondo has done, right? I've touched something that no one else in history except Mondo has done. And that just, again, provides a level of excitement. That for me was like, whoa, like, okay, this is good. And now it also provides a level of like separation from the rest of the pole vault field, right? So I'm just going to bring up the last couple. Let me just see from 2019. So 2020 to present. If we look at the pole vault field, we're looking at Mondo Duplantis, obviously, on a different level. You have Manolo Karalis, and then you have the quote unquote the rest of the field between Casey Lightfoot, Lavillenie, Chris Nielsen, Sam Kendricks, right? Volkov. Like, you have a couple guys who are in the 6 meter range, but you're really looking at 3 different realms here. The rest of the field, you have Karalis, and then you have Mondo. And that's really the separation that Manolo is creating here, because he's been gradually making some slow and steady progress. I'm just going to bring up his profile here very quickly to kind of highlight the progression that he's been making throughout his career, and really over the past couple of years, where he's jumped 6, literally going from 580, 581, 586 to 6 meters in 2024 to 608. And then he gets up to 617. If y'all remember the 608, this was like a big performance. And then he gets up to 617. And on the circuit throughout 2025, where he was maybe, again, I'm going to talk about Mondo in a second, but he was maybe giving Mondo a little run for his money, but he was showing a level of consistency in the 6 meter range, right? Six flat, 602, 602, 608, right? 6 meters. Like and even more of them, sorry, just to highlight some of his other performances. Like he has a level of consistency that's been developing. And that's what I like to see in a pole vaulter, to kind of highlight that this 617 is not just a one-off, right? It's not just, a fluke. Oh no, he's never going to, no, like I'd expect him to maybe do it again, maybe at World Indoor Champs again. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But, I really, really do like this. And the last thing just on him is he's only 26 years old. I think he turns 27 at the end of this year, if I'm correct, in October. Yeah, so he'll be 27 in October. So Manolo still has many years to continue getting better, to continue to grow, to continue to develop, and to continue to push the bounds of this mark, right? I really, really do like that. But the flip side is this. And the question is, can Karalis actually challenge Mondo Duplantis? Can he actually challenge Mondo Duplantis? And what does challenging Mondo Duplantis look like? Because he has, quote unquote, challenged Mondo Duplantis in the past, right? So I'm going to just bring this up. Let me see if I can pull this up. He is, quote unquote, challenged. So at the Zurich Diamond League, let's see if this comes up. Yes. At the Zurich Diamond League in 2025, last year, in the pole vault, he actually did, again, quote unquote, challenge Mondo Duplantis, because if you remember, they both jumped 6 meters and Mondo jumped 6 meters for the win, but Karalis also jumped 6 meters. Now, he did have more misses, so, Mondo was ultimately given the win. But this was seen as, Karalis is challenging Mondo Duplantis. That's an interesting, at least, data point. Then when you add in the fact that, okay, he's jumped 6.17, a mark that only Mondo Duplantis has ever been able to jump. Does that present another kind of like interesting discussion around him challenging Mondo Duplantis, right? I think as I look at it, though, I slow down a little bit on him actually challenging Mondo on any type of like realistic basis. Now, that doesn't mean that Karalis can't beat Mondo in a competition. We may see it this year. We may see it next year. Who knows, right? But I would slow down just slightly, in my opinion, when it comes to, could Manolo actually challenge Mondo Duplantis? Why? When you look at Mondo, and I'm just going to bring up Mondo Duplantis very quickly here, Mondo's consistency is still absolutely off the charts. So we know that Mondo has, when we're talking about just the world record overall, 6.30 meters. When you're talking about the all-time performances, you have every single centimeter from 617 all the way up to 630. So the consistency there is off the chain. And Manolo is still way, and his nickname is Manolo. Of course, his name is Karalis, but he's still significantly farther away from what Mondo has done, right? But then the other aspect is the consistency. So remember when I was showing Karalis and his performances in 2025, just like the marks that he was able to put down in the 6 meter range, right? And the 6 low, a couple 5.9s, 5.8s, et cetera, but in the 6 low range across the board. 605 and 608 were his top 2 performances. But when you look at Mondo and what he's capable of doing, it still is on an absolute different level. Yes, he does have some marks, and this is like going backwards, but just to start from the top of the year, he opened up his year in 2025 jumping 6'10", and then he's jumping world records a couple times through the year. Yes, he'll have a 5'9", right? And then he'll have, a 6'1", a 6'1", a 6'2", he'll have the 6 meter, but, he'll have the 5'8", the 5'75", or actually this is prelims, this is qualifying rounds. But I say all this to say Mondo's consistency at the top is still drastically higher than what Manolo and what Karalis has been able to do in his career so far, even when you add in this 617. Now, this may lead to more consistency going forward, potentially, but it's still a massive, massive gap when we're talking about what Mondo Duplantis actually is able to do. There's a very, very big gap there. Now, the pole vault is a very tricky event, right? You can still have a case where Mondo doesn't hit a bar. Maybe he's going for a world record and he misses it, or maybe he's going for a very high mark and he misses it. But I think it gets tough because in some of those competitions where Mondo is jumping for a world record, he already is done with the competition, right? He's not worried about jumping 6'10 or 6'12 or whatever, 6'15, something like that, right? He's not worried about those marks anymore. He'll go from jumping 6'05 or 6'08 or something like that all the way up to 6'29, 6'30, right? But if you add in the element of a Manolo who's jumping 6'17, then I think Mondo will just adjust his standards for that competition and say, okay, cool. He was able to jump, let's just say, Karalis jumped 6'15 in a competition. Mondo's going to be like, okay, cool. Instead of going for the world record at 6'31, I'm just going to go for 6'18, right? And then try and shut him down. I'm just going to go for 6'20 and then shut him down, right? I think that's what I kind of take into consideration when I'm thinking about, can Karalis actually challenge Mondo Duplantis? And I bring this up now because I wanted to really celebrate how impressive this performance is, but then also kind of contextualize how much farther away from Mondo Duplantis he still is. And the last thing to note here is compare this a little bit to what we saw from Femke Bol and Sydney McLaughlin-Vroni, where Sydney McLaughlin-Vroni, she runs 50.6 in 2022, and it's like, whoa, the world, everything is going crazy. And then in 2023, we see Femke Bol dip, more consistently into the 51s. In 2024, that's when she runs the 50.9. And some people start to say, whoa, okay, can Femke Bol challenge, Sydney McLaughlin-Vroni, this, that, whatever? Can this actually happen? And then, we get to the Olympics and Sydney McLaughlin-Vroni is like, nah, I'm good. And she runs 50.3, right? And just shuts everything down. Because an athlete like Sydney, an athlete like Mondo, right? An athlete like a Yulimar Rojas or somebody like that, those athletes are in a completely different realm. Even if they have some competition that's gaining up on them, granted, Yulimar Rojas doesn't have any competition in the triple jump when she's healthy. But even if you have competition that's done stuff that no other athlete in history has been able to do, they are still so far ahead of even them that it's they got to have a really, really bad day. Now, granted, the pole vault is a very tricky event. So anything can happen in a pole vault competition, right? One mistake can really end your competition. But I think I'm going to slow down on okay, can Karalis actually challenge, Mondo Duplantis? On any given day, I'd probably bet on Mondo casually jumping 620 than I would at, with Karalis jumping 620 or even the 617, right? This is his best mark. And he has the capabilities of jumping 620 just based on the height above the bar. But I think, it's a little tough. So we'll see. Both Karalis is amazing. Mondo is amazing, but Mondo is still in a whole different level. So we'll see how that does play out. Last thing I'll note is just the depth in the men's pole vault this year is at an all-time high, and we're only in February. Like if you noted, Karalis, he's jumped 617. You have Mondo Duplantis. He's only had one competition this year, and he's jumped 606, right? Obviously, we know what he can do. Then you have three other guys who have jumped over the 6-meter barrier, right? You have Volkov, you have Zach Bradford, and you have Curtis Marshall, right? That's not to say Casey Lightfoot, he's going to the World Indoor Championships. He could get, over the 6-meter barrier. You have Gutmerson, right? He could get over the 6-meter barrier. Chris Nielsen, he didn't qualify for World Indoors. I'm not sure about, someone cross-check me, but Baptiste Daria, maybe he has. But essentially I'm saying 5 guys over the 6-meter barrier in a single year has never happened before. And I looked back at different years. I've never seen 5 guys in 1 year over the 6-meter barrier. Could be wrong, but I've seen 3. There's even been competitions where 3 guys, 3 guys have, the third place has gotten 6 meters, in a competition. I think the highest is actually, I think Karalis in the pole, and I'm going to cross check this here, but in 2024 at the Poland Diamond League, Karalis had jumped 6 meters and he finished 3rd place here. And this was, I think, the highest losing competition in history. Sam Kendricks jumped 6 meters, Karalis 6 meters. And this is the highest 3rd place in history. But overall, in a single year, we haven't seen 5 guys over the 6-meter barrier and more to come. So as I look forward, could we see the World Indoor Championships this coming in just about 3 weeks' time? Could we see 4 guys over the 6-meter barrier? Could we see 5 guys over the 6-meter barrier in one competition? Right? That's something to think about. And then we haven't even got to the outdoor season yet. We're still only indoors. So it's almost a guarantee that we are going to see more guys in the pole vault over the 6-meter barrier. We're going to see more of these high quality competitions and some of these very high marks. It's almost like in one of the previous lives I did where we were speaking about the Usain Bolt era. In this current kind of Mondo Duplantis era of pole vaulting, it's a psychological effect of Mondo has literally and hypothetically raise the bar of what is expected when it comes to a pole vault competition. You can't come in here jumping 580. You can't come in here jumping 590, right? Or else you're going to get cooked, right? Or else, you're going to get 4th place. Shout out to Casey Lightfoot, not to disparage in any way, but just using this as a reference point. Or else you might not get on the podium at a world championships, right? You have to be jumping 6 meters bare minimum, if not higher, to be able to actually get on the podium. That's what, the conversation around the pole vault is right now, which then leads to all these guys pushing the bounds of what they were previously capable of. And then that just pushes everything farther and farther up. So I love the pole vault. The pole vault is cooking right now. It is absolutely on fire right now. So, oh man, I don't know. We're going to see. But yeah, that is Karalis in the pole vault. That is a pole vault. This was good. This is maybe my, maybe my favorite performance of 2026 so far. This was good, man. This was good. Look at that height above the bar. Look at that height, y'all. Crazy. Okay, so let me get to just the last comments as we close out. But yes, so and just to circle back real quick, yeah. Matej Farlani has been one of the best track and field athletes recently who's transitioned from junior worlds to senior level worlds and Olympics very smoothly. Absolutely, completely agree. Don't count him out. He doesn't have the world lead right now, but he is a gold medal threat, right? Don't play with him in the long jump. Yep, so been shouting out men's pole vault for a while now, and they're delivering this year with 5 guys already clearing 6 meters. This is historic. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is absolutely historic. And yeah, definitely. I definitely think Mondo's impact has pushed a lot of these men and even women to push higher heights these past 2 to 3 years. Yeah, exactly. That was like kind of the last point that I was making. It's like, it's a psychological effect. Athletes realize they have no choice. In the Usain Bolt era, we saw that athletes had no choice. You can't come up to an Olympic Games running 9.8, or else you're not going to be on the podium. Like Tyson Gay ran 9.80 in 2012 and did not get a medal. Like, you had to show up. After Usain Bolt runs, 9.5, Tyson Gay is like, okay, I have no choice. And he runs 9.6, right? You know what I'm saying? Johan Blake runs 9.6. That's what I think is occurring here. Karalis has gotten close to Mondo in certain competitions. Again, the Zurich Diamond League, maybe another one. He's almost like seen it as like, oh, maybe I can get him, but he hasn't. And now he's realizing, okay, I have no choice. If I want to even be in the conversation with Mondo or maintain my spot, I have to go higher and higher. And that leads to all the other guys also jumping higher and higher, more consistently at that as well. So that's what we're looking at in the pole vault. It's insane. Oh, okay. So this is what sorry, I didn't read the comments as I was going through, but does this 617 meter jump put more pressure on Mondo at future competition? He has always had a huge cushion for winning, but now that the gap is closing, I wonder if we will see closer competition at a different level. The pole vault is very tricky, right? Anything can happen in the pole vault. It's not like a foregone conclusion, but Mondo has a massive cushion. And you need to take into consideration that Mondo has been going up individual centimeters at the world record. In theory, Mondo could be at like 6.40 meters in the long jump right now. I'm sorry, in the pole vault right now. He could be at like 6.4, but he's been going incrementally up and up like that. So I don't think this is like, and the other point is Karalis isn't a consistent 6.1 or 6.10 or above, 6.17, whatever. Like, he's not consistently in that realm yet. Yes, that's his personal best, but Mondo is a consistent 6.2 meter. Like, he has every centimeter from 6'2", 6'21", 6'2", 2'3", 2'4". Like, he's done that multiple times. Karalis just went up from 6.08 all the way up to 6.17. Yes, he does have a lot of room to spare, but we have to see that consistency before it's like, okay, Mondo doesn't have that cushion anymore, right? So that's kind of like my assessment of it, but it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting. Yeah, Mondo will have to start coming in at earlier heights. Yeah, that's a good point. Yep, and yeah, they're the same age. So Manolo and Mondo, they're the exact same age. Jump Boy, do you mean Jump Man? I know I didn't see his video yet, but I saw he put a video. But maybe that's who you might be talking about. But let me know. I really love what Karalis is doing. Mondo needs some serious competition. Will they be at the World Athletics Ultimate Championships? Yep. So both of them should be there. Yeah. I know Mondo will be there. Karalis has enough points. They'll be at the World Indoor Championships together. So we'll see them in like 2-3 weeks. Oh yeah. Okay, good point. All in the game. So yeah, between World Indoor Championships, Euro Championships, Ultimate Championships, like, and then they're gonna be competing on the circuit a whole bunch of times too. Like they, we're gonna see them. We're gonna see them. I just want Manolo to win. I mean, if he can, it's not gonna be easy, but we're gonna see. Yes, EJ Obiena, like, what is he? 2000. No, when did he get a medal? Was it 2000? Did he get an Olympic medal or did he get just a world medal? I forget if he ever got a medal. I know he has a medal, but I forget if he has an Olympic or world medal. I'm just cross-checking here. Let me see. I just don't remember if he has an Olympic or world medal. No, he got 4th at the Olympics, and he has 2. He has the silver and the bronze from 2023 and 2022. My bad. So yeah, it'd be great to see him back. He's kind of he's 30 years old, so he saw some years. Actually, yeah, he saw some years. So who knows? It can actually happen. Whoa. Okay. Personal prediction: at least 14 men will jump over 6 meters in the pole vault this year. That's wild. Again, 5 men in the pole vault is the most ever in 1 year. 14 is crazy, yo. Like, yeah, 14 would be insane. Yeah, like that would make it like that would be insane. That'd be insane. Okay, dope. All right. Well, that's it. I think we good. That's a pole vault. Yeah, I probably will put some other videos out at some point, but appreciate y'all always for tuning in. And link in the description for different sources and stuff. And all these will be timestamped if y'all want to like circle back. But appreciate y'all for watching. We'll be back next week and a couple things in the middle of the week as we roll on towards World Indoors. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. See ya next time.